yes, it's the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help you maximize your use of marketing automation and CRM. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Now, today's guest, awesome. I can't wait to introduce you. Today's guest is my favorite kind of academic, someone who has their feet planted in the halls of theory and science, and at the same time is in the real world testing out those theories. She is amazing. She is the assistant professor of marketing at SNHU, which is a killer university that is both local and online. People getting degrees from it all over the U.S. She's also at the Harvard Extension School, need I say more, teaching classes on branding, social media management, analytics, and we're going to talk about brand advocacy as well. And last but not least, and also important, she has her own consulting firm, Really Leila. And may I now introduce Dr. Leila Samii. Welcome.
Thank you, Casey. So happy to be here. So stoked to be talking about brand advocacy and busting some myths. We're super stoked.
Oh yeah, we're gonna bust those myths. So see, you're just chomping at the bit to smash some bad strategy. I love this. So super quick, we'll remind everyone the theme this month, the theme for the show is around social media. It's around that marketing automation maturity model, that roadmap we were telling people about before you go blast off some campaign. Or today we're talking about blasting some social media. Before you do that, you gotta do all the steps to prepare. So previous months we talked about getting to know your buyer or setting up tracking so you can actually get an ROI. And we talked about content marketing recently too. Now we're talking about that social conversation. We're talking about getting out there and having these open and authentic communications, social media, Twitters, everything, you name it. And we have the right person to school us today. Class is in session. I have my pen. I have my notepad. We're ready to go. Smash some myths for me. What are you seeing out there, whether it's in school or out in the real world? Tell me what you're seeing. Bogus strategy. People think they're doing social, but they're screwing it up. What are they doing?
So the biggest thing I see that people are screwing up on social is that they're just selling. They don't realize that social media is all about content, right? No one wants to be sold to on social. So I would say that's really one of the biggest myths that should be busted before we even get started.
So what are they doing? They're just like hopping on. They're saying they're tweeting, buy my thing. All their tweets or all their shares or Facebook pages is just saying like, buy this, like it's a freaking ad.
That's it. And a lot of times they think they're doing it right because people are still buying from them. But what they're really doing is segregating the people that want to buy from them or the people that don't know about their brand because they just are not giving them any free content. So the best thing
they're separating out the people that want to buy who are clicking on those things. So like, oh, this is working. It's like, no, actually you're alienating everyone else who just wanted to find out more about you, who doesn't want to just click and buy right now.
Exactly. So it's, you don't need to do about 80% of the content that you're creating should be free. Just, give some actual content and then 20% of the time sell on social.
So it is okay to do the selling, but we don't want to make it the bulk of it.
Exactly. You don't want to just constantly be selling.
Yeah, I think that's probably good to note too, because sometimes you can go in the opposite direction. You can just be super non-salesy, but then you're not accomplishing the goal, the point you're there in the first place. We're marketing. We're trying to get B2B leads. We're trying to close deals. So don't go off the other direction and not ever sell. You got to ask for the business sometimes. That makes sense.
Exactly. You do have to ask for the business once in a while because people need to know why you're there.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Jeez. Okay. Excellent. Smashed. That myth is gone. Don't just get on there and sell. And if you do a small percentage of it. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. What else should we smash today? I'm sure there's a lot of people doing crazy social things.
Tons. So another huge myth that I think needs to be smashed is the idea of not looking to your advocates. A lot of companies today are just using social media to focus on, again, creating content, which is great, but then they're not really focusing on building up advocates. And so I don't know if that's really a myth that needs to be smashed or more so just a best practice and what needs to be done.
Got it. So yeah, we will definitely need to talk about advocates because I know that's a big one for you. And I think there's one other one we chatted about. I would love to get your take on the idea of um, being social and having that conversation and not just like okay, not selling or you're doing the 80-20, but now you're just blasting out content. You're not actually engaging with people. Do you see that a lot?
All the time. So even to talk about that myth, I always say social media, the first word in social media is social, right? So you need to be
Right.
social. And so the focus of social media is sometimes gets a little misconstrued, and people just focus on either paid advertising or just, again, as you're saying, blasting out the content. And so what happens is that you really need to make sure that you're engaging with your audience, engaging, as I mentioned, with the brand advocates, engaging with people that you want to be a part of your community on social media. And so what happens is people will just push out content and push out content, but there's no social, right? And remember, first word in social media is social.
Social, right. I think we're doing the media without the social. Okay, so we got to engage. How do we engage? Someone who maybe is doing it right or maybe they're doing it wrong and they're not sure. What things are you looking for in their Twitter feed to see that they're engaging?
So I think the best thing is to follow certain keywords. And then, so it depends on where you are in your social media strategy. If you're trying to really create brand awareness and really just acquire new customers, then the best thing to do is follow some certain keywords connected to your brand, and then find those specific people and start engaging with them. So either and it doesn't need to be super creepy. It could be a little more passive and just resharing some of their content, or liking their content, just to say, hey, we're here, check us out. And the idea really is to start that relationship and build relationships on social media. People don't want to be sold to. I mean, just think about in face-to-face marketing. You're not just going to buy a product the first time you see an advertisement. It's better when you have that relationship and that connection between the community and that person and the brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I've always kind of looked at social. Maybe this is just me being too analytical, but whenever I see a tweet or when I know I'm tweeting and people see myself or my tweets or my brands, Cheshire Impact, whoever, it's almost like a brand impression, and it's like that single tweet alone won't do it. But if you keep seeing it, it's going to be a name you're more familiar with. It grows and even if I've got some connections, there may be business contacts on Facebook, there, you might see, like this morning, I just shared a picture of my daughter. She's dressed as actually two of my kids, they're dressed like cowgirls and cowboys. They had the jeans on, the vest and the cowboy hat. And I just shared that, and I think I'm going to put something on Twitter about it. And it's just like, hey, this is what I care about. Here's something important. It's not necessarily selling anything, but it's reminding you like, oh yeah, Casey, he still exists. And maybe I need to call him, or maybe just, the next time we go to chat, you remember, oh, hey, your daughter is the cutest ever.
Right.
It just starts up that conversation. It makes it that much easier for business. So yeah, I definitely see that, even like a B2B sense, the fact that, we can be following either our customers can be following us, and also knowing what they're up to, staying in the loop with them. And it's like especially on Twitter, it's like a lighter version of Facebook. It'd be kind of creepy. Actually, I once had a salesperson try to add friend request me on Facebook after our first sales call. And I was like, it's a little weird. Weird.
I totally, that's always that fine line, right? What is too soon, right? Is it too soon to just jump right in and become friends on Facebook? But Twitter, to your point, is so much more. It's a little more out there, right? It's not as intimate as Facebook.
Right.
Facebook is really your personal life, so.
Yeah, and your family too. With Facebook, it's like, here's pictures of my kids. And like I just talked about. And so there's certain people I'm okay with you seeing that, but the random stranger, I'm probably going to vet you out. Do I need you knowing what my kids look like and, all sorts of inside information? Probably not.
Oh, that's so true.
Maybe a partner though. Partners totally, Hey, we work together. We're in the battle together. Cool. Bridging that work-life type balance there. But yeah, when is it too weird? But at least you're having that conversation. And I found that at least when I reach out sometimes the best thing to do on, say, Twitter, for instance, is
Mhm.
just to go through your feed and interact with the people you follow.
Right.
Not even like your own thing. It's not even
Yeah.
about you. It's about them. And eventually, when it comes time for you to do your sharing, they might be retweeting it because you've been thinking about them, and it not in a in a weird sketchy way. You're just, hey, I'm liking your stuff, retweeting your
Right.
stuff, and then maybe you go to do your thing, they're retweeting you. And
Exactly.
it's like that natural partnership as opposed to, to your point, people just blasting it out there, and hey, why does no one retweet me? Because
Yeah.
you're a jerk
Because
and you're spamming people on Twitter.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I always find the fine line between commenting as a brand, right? So like when my clients are
Yeah.
commenting to people, like, where is that fine line? Because you don't want to your point, spam people and just be like, buy our product, or hey, that's really cool. And people are smart, so they know
Right.
the implicit what you're trying to get across. But I think it's starting the relationship. Maybe it's like saying hi, liking a tweet, and then resharing, and that's a little more, hey, how's it going, and then actually getting to the full set conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure. That's definitely the case. And brands could do it right.
Yeah,
They could do
anybody
it
can do
wrong.
it.
That's true. That's true. Do you? So you actually, you in your business, you actually help brands while you're doing the tweets for them, or you advising them how to do it? What kind of approach do you take?
I personally try to just do more of the strategic advising, and when
Yeah.
and more so, I do trainings. That's really where my forte lies, in getting people from one level of what I call social media maturity to the next level. But I do, some, if people are in need, I'll help them out with some tweets and some Facebook posts. But that's that's not exactly where they want to pay me, I would have to say.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. And it's easier to teach them to fish.
Right, right.
So this is interesting, though, maturity model. So do you have like a stepped tiered path, or what people, so what's zero? What's like zero state for just not on anything? Is that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I call it the hope phase.
Oh, okay. Tell me about what's the hope phase?
So the hope phase is you have nothing, and so you're just putting together, a Twitter account, just usually the main Facebook, main social media
Yeah.
platform. So Facebook, Twitter, depending on the company, LinkedIn, Pinterest, definitely. And then either a blog or something along those lines.
Right.
And at that point, you're doing your keyword research, you're trying to see what your brand image is online, learning about the culture.
Right.
And then you go next to the purpose phase. So now you're going in with a little bit more of a purpose, and you start posting a little bit of content, start, engaging a little bit with your community. And along the way, this is another myth. Make sure you're measuring, right? Always measure what you're doing.
Yep.
And then moving into what I call the appreciation phase, where you're getting social media. You understand that it's not just, you're just blasting out content to blast out content, but you're really starting to move more into a strategic framework. And then finally, the last phase is what I call the wisdom phase, because now you get it, you understand. And this is really where you focus in on your brand advocates to create the content for you. And now at this point, you're just focusing more on the message that's being posted and resharing brand advocate content, getting your employees involved. And at that point, it's you're just being strategic more so than just spray and hope. I don't know.
Yeah. Just sort of hoping that it's sort of something lands somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So, and what I find is that I work with a lot of small businesses, like really small businesses, and they don't have the manpower. And at the end of the day, they can't build up the content base. So I really try to get them to the wisdom phase as quickly as possible. So you get others to create content for you.
So hope, purpose, appreciation, or wisdom?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. And I guess if you're less than the hope phase, you're not even trying.
Right.
But the conversations are still happening. People are still talking about you on social. You're just not a part of the conversation.
Exactly.
So you have no ability to control or reply or anything.
No. No, you have nothing really. I mean, at that point, usually I would say companies, there's there's 2 to 3 reasons why people aren't on social. One, they don't have the time,
Right.
and it happens, right? Um, the second really is that the C-level, the managers, the owners are too scared. They still don't understand what social is all about, and
Right.
they're afraid to give up control. And we hear that all the time still. So that's really the 2 big reasons that I usually find why people aren't on social.
Interesting. Yeah, they just don't. It either doesn't even matter to them, or they don't think it's going to matter, or they just don't know what to
Right.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Interesting. What about students? I mean, do they come to class and like, look, I'm on Instagram, I snap, I got this thing, and do they tend to know more than those businesses, or are they lost in their own way? Like, how what kind of differences do you see between the classroom and then the business owners and those kind of folks you work with?
I think it's so funny you say this because in one of my classes right now, the capstone in our social media minor, I have the students take over a happiness campaign, and they go from they do everything. All my
What's a
students still,
happiness campaign?
yeah. So we spread happiness across campus, and what we do, it's so fun, right? I mean, what else? Why wouldn't you want to spread happiness?
Yeah, I mean, you could spread a not happy campaign, but that doesn't sound like fun.
No, not at all. And so I won't give you the background, but the purpose of it really was that happiness increases your motivation to do something.
Sure.
So when I found this out, I said, how can I get my students more motivated? And
Yeah.
so we started spreading happiness around campus, which was great. And it's interesting because all the students still have access that were in the previous classes to this page that we have. It's called Happy in 21. So it's Facebook. They have a blog, Instagram, and Twitter. I try to cut them off and keep them pretty focused because it's only for a semester.
Right.
Um, so they spread happiness around campus, but the students, they in the capstone of the minor class, they've been through so many social media classes, and they sometimes forget those basic principles, like you should hashtag, you should once in a while reach out to people, you should be social, and so they know what to do. But I just feel like similar to businesses, they sometimes can get a little forgetful
Sure.
and just forget the foundation of what to do. And so usually students know how to tweet, but they don't know how to be strategic, or they won't look at the numbers again.
Yeah.
Yes. Same thing with businesses, right? A lot of my clients, they post great content, but they don't look at the analytics to see how to be strategic.
Interesting. It's like they know the application. They've
Mm-hmm.
tweeted before or shared whatever the platform is, and they're comfortable doing that. They may even know about hashtags, but they may not know why they use them. They may
Right.
use them because everyone else does,
Yep.
or maybe use them to get more followers of their Instagram page.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not being strategic. So,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're one step ahead of the business owner who's probably like, I don't even, is this the Facebook? What is this thing?
Right.
And like, no, actually, this is how you do it. So there's a little bit of that how to, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think, and we probably both seen this, the technology side of it. I mean, that's important, but you got to start with the strategy. You have the
Right.
strategy. And for us, we like talking about process after that, and then you do technology. So that's cool. You know the tech already. That'll come in handy when it comes time to actually tweet or
Right.
share or post. But more importantly is, what are you going to post about? Why? How do you be more deliberate and intentional with what you're doing? Because they were doing it just to do it, or
Right.
not even realizing why they were doing it. Maybe muscle memory wasn't social, but they weren't being deliberate. Or there's some things you could tweak or change, and they'd be that much better.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's usually, and the funny thing is, usually if you're more strategic, you are spending less time on social, right? In the sense that
Huh.
now you know when to post, you know what to post. So you're not just blasting out content, but now it's to your perfect terminology, intentional in what you're doing.
Right.
So if you just spend more time, and this is part of the social media maturity model, measuring doing more of the measurements and the analytics, then the content is more intentional and more what your audience wants.
Got it. So when you nail that measurement, it actually makes you more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, in everything we do, but
Yeah.
social. I think
So true.
sometimes we forget that we have the tools now.
And that's a great thing about social and digital, but more so social is there's so many free tools. We talk about brand advocacy, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure about this, if it's free or not, but Hootsuite just came out with this tool called Amplify. I think it's been on the market for about a year, maybe even like 6-7 months, but it's helping you create employee advocates online. So we have so much out there, and if it's not free, it's super reasonably priced.
What do you use?
Oh, I use
or is this like the cobbler's shoes or something? Where you and I were just old, OG. We're just right on the website itself sharing.
No.
Yeah.
No, I actually, the thing is, I use a lot, and it's because the tools that I want are just, my clients won't pay for them. So instead, I just have to use a ton of little free tools or freemium tools. But I use Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Hashtagify Me. That's great for finding new hashtags. Oh, cool. Now my list is not coming to me off the top. Oh, a great one. I should have written these down. It's a Facebook group tool. And that's another thing about brand advocacy is if you can do private groups on Facebook, that helps a lot.
That's cool.
I just can't think of the name right now. It's not coming.
Well, that's cool. I mean, we'll get the list later on. We'll put them in the show notes for sure.
Sounds good.
Now, if there was something that you should just make your clients pay. But what kind of tools would you be using if they had unlimited budget?
Unlimited budget, I would say Simply Measured is huge, but Sprout Social just bought Simply Measured, but
really?
It's an all-encompassing tool. It's amazing.
That's cool.
It's has everything you need on it. So that is what I would use, but none of my clients want to shell out that money. So
it's too bad they don't have like an agency model for it. I know some of the guys over at Sprout. They used to work over at Pardot before, and before they all. So a lot of them migrated. You see like a whole bunch of people in the sales, sales leaders move somewhere, and then their team or their trusted inner circle of sales reps follows them. It's kind of neat to see that. It's like such a small world in the tech, the SaaS tech marketing space.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, okay. So, definitely the Hootsuite. I use Hootsuite myself, and but yeah, maybe we'll get Sprout Social on here and see what's up. What's up, Sprout? Yeah. And maybe even Hootsuite too. Maybe we'll have them like battle royale. On the podcast and see which one wins. And the winner will recommend them to everybody.
That's all. Yeah. It's like the MTV, remember the fighting thing?
Was it like the Road Rules one where they battled each other? Yeah, totally. See, now you're just dating yourself though. Cause I know. Like MTV, what's that? Is that on Netflix? Not really. Not really. So yeah, let's dive into this advocacy thing. I know you're really big into it. What is it? What are we talking about here? Classes in session. I'm taking notes.
So the great thing about advocacy is, again, I always try to help companies be as efficient as possible on social media, and brand advocates will talk about your brand whether you ask them to or not, right? Yeah. And so they really have a strong affinity to the brand. They have a good relationship. And the idea is if you can tap into them, know who your brand advocates are, they can spread and give them a message to spread. They spread your message so much more, I don't want to say easily, but efficiently, because they understand the culture that they're speaking to as well, and the culture of the community that they're speaking to. Yeah. So interestingly enough, 58% of companies today don't even know they're brand advocates. This is a stat I found on social media today. And then the ones that do, only 20% of them actually leverage their brand advocates. Interesting. So some of them don't know who they are, and then some know who they are, but they're not doing anything with it. Only 20% of the brand. So that's a real edge, in
get to know. And how do you identify? How do you do that first step? Identify who your advocates are.
So are there any, just a quick question for you.
Yeah. I love questions. I never get questions. Wish I had more questions.
I should be, maybe we can do a little switcheroo one day.
Yes, a little switcheroo. Yeah. We'll do it at the 30-minute mark. You'll just take over the show and I'll be your guest.
Perfect. Do you ever have people that you constantly see liking your posts or resharing your posts or commenting to you?
Yeah.
On
I know
social?
Yeah. You kind of just see their name.
Yeah, you just see their name and you're like, what? Thanks. You get excited. These are, I would say, are part of your brand advocacy circle. And then if you don't really empower them, you're going to lose them. And that's what you typically find. And I focus again specifically on social media because you have brand advocates out with your clients, and that's great, but they're not, maybe they're the ones that are liking your post, maybe they're not, but it's really just spreading that brand awareness. And maybe also brand advocates will be the ones that are creating content about your brand or always mentioning your brand online. Right. So it's really trying to build them up and empower them, because if you're not empowering them, again, you're going to lose them. So a few ways you really want to find out who your brand advocates are is just listen, just pay attention. And really engage, and then start engaging with them, and then empower them. And that's really it. And it's just empowering them.
One tweet, like if someone's like, Casey's the best, are they an advocate? Or do they have to say that a couple times, like a couple posts? Do you draw a line, or is it just anyone that says something positive about you?
So it depends. I wouldn't say that it's just one time. I would say it would have to be, a few times at least.
Right.
But I would say a few times, and then making sure that it's that they're engaging with you too. So you could look at different levels of brand advocacy, but it's really mostly dependent on the really how engaged are they with you. So, are they commenting on your Facebook post constantly or providing their feedback?
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I definitely know that I'm a advocate for a couple brands like Delta Airlines and who else? There's brands that I appreciate and I'm always just thankful for. And, Zoom meeting. Right now. I love those guys. I actually tweeted them the other day and I said, I did the lyrics from that love song. Like, I can't fall in love with you. I was like, Wiseman said, only fools fall in love. And I put a comma in between each every word. And then a picture of me with a heart, telling Zoom that I love them. That's because awesome. I was on GoToMeeting and I did this very first podcast in GoToMeeting only to find out that GoToMeeting doesn't record video.
Oh no.
Unless you share screens. And so my first podcast, there is no video because it had audio, thankfully, but there was no video. And then Zoom actually will do separate audio tracks per speaker. So
I didn't realize
if your goofy mic messes up, that's cool. We can adjust you without messing with my buttery voice on this amazing mic, right? So it's like you can control that. GoToMeeting, not so much. And so if GoToMeeting, we were like their advocates for a long time, but then Zoom came in. Actually, Zoom's a client of Cheshire Impact too. We
cool! Wow.
So it's kind of like a neat thing where they're like they work with us, we work with them. But now that I've actually used their tool, I'm like a huge fan. Spotify too. Spotify too. I was using like old school iTunes or whatever, and we started working with them, doing some work, and then all of a sudden, like I should probably download their app. And not like show up to a meeting listening to music on, I don't know, not their app.
Right.
So, I love it. I love Spotify. So
that's awesome.
Now I'm like a huge fan. I haven't tweeted them a heart yet though, but
they actually have an awesome marketing campaign too. I don't know if you've ever.
Do they?
Well, I don't know if you must have. You're running their marketing campaign, but they're amazing. Like some of their billboards and stuff, even. Which billboards are outdated.
I haven't seen any of the billboards. What do they say?
There's one that was what did it say? It gave a number and it said a number of guys that loved our Valentine's Day mix. We love you too, and it was right around like Valentine's Day. And I don't know. It was just
a good point. Yeah, like I need some smooth music for tonight. Spotify, help me out. And it's like, we got you, bro.
It's
Here's
so
here's
good.
20 playlists that might apply. It's funny. I was actually on my dad's boat in northern New Hampshire, and plugging in some music. And if I leave the music up to him,
Yeah.
so I plug in Spotify, and I'm thinking, I need like boat music. So Spotify, type in like summer boat music, and there's like, no kidding, like 2 or 3 playlists that it's like
That's awesome.
summer boating music, and it's all like the songs that works well with sunblock and water
Which
and
was
all
so
that.
fun.
It was beautiful. We had it blasting through the speakers of the boat. So another great brand.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
They're awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
So cool. Okay, so advocates, you got to listen
Yeah.
to find them first,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the ones that are constantly saying things.
Yep.
If you're not sure what that looks like, just follow me, Casey Chash, on Twitter, and watch me profess my love for Delta Airlines
Exactly.
and all those. Actually, did you hear about that JetBlue love story? Social?
Yeah they that's what that was what they played off of, was the brand advocacy, right? I can't remember it off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, let's see. Where is he? Yeah, I think is it Paul Brown? Yeah, Paul Brown. Let me just pull it up here. But yeah, I had a chance to hear a talk. It was from the VP of Marketing at JetBlue.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, there it is. It's Paul Gordon Brown. This is a great one. He has an 8-minute video,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called "My Improbable Love Affair with JetBlue," and it's awesome. And it was funny because it was the VP of Marketing for JetBlue saying, "Here, to your point, here's a brand advocate."
Right.
And he described how it happened. And Paul, in his video, talks about what happened. It was out of Boston here. He was late for a flight. He gets to the plane. He's sitting on the plane, and he didn't get a chance to get his Starbucks. And sometimes you need that caffeine fix, and he didn't have it. So he took to Twitter, and he said, "Hey JetBlue, does this seat come with Starbucks?" Now the real secret is, if you'd flown Delta, it comes with Starbucks. But
Does it really?
Just saying.
Oh.
So JetBlue, I don't know what brand you have, but anyways, so he flew JetBlue, so he didn't have auto Starbucks. I'm just little word in from my brand, but so he tweeted like, "Hey, does this thing come with does this seat come with a latte, mocha latte, Trenti, whatever?" What he sort of described it, and no kidding, one of the airport managers for JetBlue saw the tweet, was like, "You know what? I'm not doing anything right now." Went to Starbucks, bought the coffee, and went to the plane as it was loading, and they're like, Paul Gordon Brown, please, ring your button, and
Right.
they brought him a coffee, and he was so like surprised and shocked and bewildered, and good for them for creating a little magic moment that. He created this whole, and this is the right guy to do this to. He created this whole adventure, a love story with him and JetBlue, and he has amazing examples in there. At one point, he asks JetBlue on Twitter if he should wear the white shirt or the blue shirt. And he took a picture of it laying on his bed before he traveled. He's like, "JetBlue, which one should I go with?" JetBlue replied, was like, go with the blue, go with the plaid.
I have to look this up.
And and it just kept going back and forth, and he'd say, "Oh, I love you, JetBlue," and they're like, "We love you back," and back and back and back, and then eventually, I think I've talked about this before, but I love this story. Eventually, for Valentine's Day, he wrote like this haiku, right?
No way.
He wrote a haiku to them and how much he loved them. I think he bought them some chocolate and took a picture of it. And they actually created a badge on the JetBlue app. Apparently it tells you, hey, you're in Dallas, you're in Houston, you're in this, and you get a badge every time you go to a new city. Well, they created a Paul Gordon Brown badge. So Paul Brown, PB, and they called it the PB and J badge.
That's hilarious.
Like the two of us are better together. PB and J badge, and he's the only one that will ever have that badge.
That's cool. And you know what? The story's being told. You're telling it, right? And
I'm telling it.
They're empowering their brand advocates, and that's really what they should have done. This is an amazing story. I mean, think about how far. And imagine, and they didn't have to go get him a coffee, and they just get him actually it's Starbucks, a $4 or $5 coffee, maybe
Yeah,
$8
that was
coffee.
probably some expensive stuff. Probably spent $8.50 on that stupid coffee. But hey, the amount of advertising they've gotten from it. I mean, clearly, even on the hardcore marketing show, all the per minute they've gotten. But no, it's what a great story. And so the dot to that is that after hearing this talk, I tweeted at Delta because I wanted to put the love to the test here, and so I said, hey, great. Hey JetBlue, I love the Prezzo. Sounds like you guys are the best, but my heart's still with Delta. but I wanted to see who's going to reply back first. Yeah. Is it going to be Delta or is JetBlue going to beat them? And then maybe I need to reevaluate. But thankfully, Delta, they wrote back first. So I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Oh, good.
Change my alignments and allegiances. Imagine that, right? They didn't. They never wrote back, and then maybe I'm like, well, JetBlue cares more.
Yeah.
But thankfully they didn't. Now they haven't picked out my shirts for me. I don't think they have time. Unfortunately, I've tweeted my love to them a few times. Okay, coming to KNC here, but
one day. Don't keep trying. I mean, keep trying. Sorry.
Yeah, keep trying.
Keep trying. It'll happen. It'll happen. Right. Oh, that's awesome.
So those stories are fun. I love that's the best one I've heard. And you got to be listening, to your point.
You do.
For those advocates. You're listening for the people that are upset to try to help them, but you're also listening for the people that are happy.
Exactly.
The other day, Delta was having a crazy storm, and obviously they didn't create the storm.
Right.
So I was like, hey, your call center has an hour and a half wait. Good luck. I hope your day goes better. I'm sure you're having one of those days.
Right.
I'm all set, but good luck to you. Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, because sometimes you can, what companies do there, even if they don't have those types of moments, but they can do them almost on smaller scales to get bigger results. So we'll do at SNHU, what we have, which is actually really cool. The alumni office does, and we see these all the time now, but Twitter takeovers. So they have alumni come back and just take over the Twitter and have people tweet about their day and go throughout their day, which, it's not just, it might not get the same press as JetBlue does with their Paul Gordon Brown PBJ badge, but
PBJ badge.
Cool. Yeah.
So it's cool. What do they do? They take over, the alumni takes over the corporate account, or?
Yeah, well, not the corporate. It's a specific Twitter account, and they just take people through their day. So, and it's cool because then alumni find out about it, and then they actually approach SNHU and say, "Hey, can I take over your Twitter account?" And they run a little story on them. So it's kind of fun, and you can see where you're going. And
now, is this I'm brushing my teeth right now, or is this?
I mean, if you want, but no, it's more this is what my day's like at my job. So. Right. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's one that I remember, and I always talk about it. This girl was on, one of our alumni was on, she worked in communications, and she was at one of the college football games at, I think it was Auburn University or something. Sure. So it was a pretty big game. But it was cool to see her, working and what other students can be doing. So it also, right, we talk about what are your goals? So bring it back to being strategic, and that's important. So it's not as fun as, again, the JetBlue story, but it's, a little.
Well, no, I mean, these are all different things, but you actually bring up a great point. How do you be strategic with social?
Good question. I'm so happy you asked.
Yeah. You're like, yes, come into my evil lair.
Do you ever? So the first thing is just know what your business goals are, right? What do you want overall? And then align those with how are you going to support your business goals. So, are you trying to increase revenue, sales? Which one are you really focusing in on? Right. And then based on that, you would focus more on, are we trying to get more engagement and get people to come back and buy our products, right? Or services, or are we just trying to just increase sales and that's it? Right. And so the two focuses then with social media, that's what you're going to look at. Are you going to increase brand awareness, right? And just try to get more amplification, or are you going to really focus in on brand advocates? And I would say based on that, always have, look at historical data, see where you are, see where you want to be, and then focus in on what your strategy is. So say, for instance, you want to increase your brand awareness. Well, the metrics are going to be looking at are going to be more focused on retweets and reshares and comments, more so than just focusing in on those brand advocates and empowering those brand advocates. So it's really, when you're measuring, what measurement are you going to focus in on more so, or which metrics, sorry. So, because you can't do everything, right? You can't be everything to everyone all at the same time. And if you just focus in on what you want to be at that moment in time. So if it is focusing on brand advocates. When I was at my last institution, we actually had an 80% growth rate in enrollment, and I say it was all because of social media. And we had very limited marketing budget. And what I did was I wanted to increase enrollment, but I focused in on our brand advocates, which are our students, and had them all create blog posts. And so we ended up having an international reach just through the blog posts, and because what we were offering, nobody else was offering, which was a master's in digital marketing and analytics.
How many different students did the blog post?
I think it was about 10. So if we had 10 students and each one did a blog post every 8 weeks, if you think about that content we're pushing out so quickly, and then we focused on certain keywords, and we had the students working on certain keywords. So it's really cool because we created this, like what's known in the academic world, a user-generated brand, where, and then if you think about it, when we post the blog, the students would get excited, post to their communities on social media. And then it was just, it was like a nice little wave.
Just take it from there. Yeah, I love that. I love when you're empowering, whether it's your brand advocates or even your employees, to do that kind of a thing. And I know Drift recently, when I was chatting with them, they had one particular day, a new feature came out, and they had every single employee in their company do a quick little video on LinkedIn, and basically broke LinkedIn because all these distributed networks were all saying the same thing across the board. And it was that, to your point, that amplification effect of just having everyone saying something was so powerful.
Right. And if you use the same keywords, that's even better, right? So if you have a structured message, I mean, that's, it's a little, but that's what marketing is today, right? It's just how many people can you reach at the same time with the same message.
Right. So what I'm hearing on the strategic side is have those business goals first. Makes sense. Start with the end in mind. A lot of sense. And then to your second point, measure. Know where you want to go, and then measure the steps to get there. What's kind of funny is I think a lot of people use the word strategic a lot. And what's funny is that the other day I actually looked it up in the dictionary, and it was about as simple as know where you want to go and have an action plan to get there. Like, that's it. But sometimes we're like, oh, let's have a strategic meeting to discuss the strategy of our strategic plan of our strategic initiative. And like, what does that even mean?
That's all right.
Well, technically it just means let's have a goal and let's make steps to get there. And I think anything that isn't addressing those two things, you're using strategy in some other sense. You're trying to make it something bigger than it is. I think sometimes we're like, ooh, how do we get strategic? Well, it's like have that destination, in mind. And it's working with people like you who can say, like, I don't know what my destination is. You're like, I will tell you. Like, is this more important or is this more important?
Right.
And you're like, that is like great. Your goal, let's make it 100. Let's make this. Now let's make the second hard part then is, well, how do I get there? And make steps to get there. And then to your point, measure. Makes a lot of sense. So how did you first start into social media? What's your do you remember your first tweet?
I do.
Do you?
I do. It was to Snoop Dogg.
Really?
Yeah, and I said something like, "Hi Snoop D-O-double-G" or something. I was just but I do. My brother actually got me into social media. He's been a huge part of my life, and he actually was the one that said, you should get on Twitter and then on Foursquare, and then kind of pushed me in the direction that way, which was kind of cool.
It's interesting because you mentioned Foursquare, like that's gone by. Well, basically bye-bye.
Yeah.
I know it's still
Wow.
around, but for the longest time, we were all checking in on Foursquare. Hey, where you at?
Yeah.
Checking in on Foursquare. Now we just check in when we're posting on Facebook,
I don't know.
if anything.
If anything. If
They just
anything.
replace that. But yeah, so I think for me, Twitter, I got a job in online
Oh,
marketing as a coordinator, online marketing coordinator many
cool.
moons ago. And my boss, who was one of my first Yodas for my career, just schooling me on everything, he said,
Nope.
"Hey, go get this Twitter thing." And I had heard of it, and I tend to be kind of a late adopter because I like everyone else to beta test for me, like the iPhone. I'll get the iPhone 10 when the 15 is out, so
Yep.
that
Yep.
all the bugs are gone, all that. But this boss, he had said, "Hey, go sign up for Twitter." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go get it." And then that was just, that's sort of that foray into it. And
Yeah.
I think I was uh, in the 14 million users
Oh,
group,
wow.
which sounds like, I don't know, depending on where you look at it from, but I think they
Yeah.
now have like hundreds of million.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I wasn't too late to the party, but I wasn't
You're
like the
on the
first
growth.
one. Yeah, yeah. I'm the early part of the curve there.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting how it's changed over time too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think there was I don't know, do you see that? Where do you see it now? Do you see things having changed on Twitter or social in general? Where do you see those things going to?
So, I it's so funny. I still follow the traditional social media principles in the sense the social, right? Everyone says, no, do paid. And I say, no, keep social, because that's what it's all about. And I think it's kind of lost that a little bit.
Mm,
But it has changed a lot. And I think Facebook, the greatest thing that Facebook focused in on at first was trying to see what social media was all about. And that's why they grew so much. When they started going to start preparing for their IPO, that's when they introduced paid ads,
right.
which is kind of interesting. Which I don't, paid ads definitely have a point, but I always get a little nostalgic about the social part of it, the social part about Facebook. But Facebook is still, everyone thinks that Facebook won't be around. I think it's always going to be there, or at least
Hmm.
for the majority of our lifetime. Twitter, on the other hand, they've been great, and I think they're starting to finally figure out their brand identity. You know,
Interesting.
their challenge with them is they didn't know what they were for so long, but now, right? Don't you feel? And it's such a great tool,
What
but
are they? How would you describe that?
an information source.
It's like
Some people say,
microblogging or something?
yeah, it's a microblog, but it's more of like an information source where
Hmm.
people go there for information, whether it's news or just learning what's going on out in the world.
Yeah.
And they still have a huge user base, and people say it's dying. And I mean, it might be dying, it might not be growing as much anymore, but it still has a huge user base.
It's interesting because Adam Hutchinson was on, and he's from Socito, and he was saying apparently their numbers are actually growing on Twitter,
Hmm.
and that might tie into your point where they finally figured out who they are and what their message is and who their audience is,
Right.
and they're growing. But I wonder if it's growing in the U.S. too. I don't know if I remember that part, but yeah, are growing, and I know they were part of the Arab Spring and the different
Mm-hmm.
when everything else is shut down. Twitter was still there and people were organizing and all that
Right.
with Twitter. Of course, now if you're an evil dictator, you're like, okay, Twitter gets the axe. It's
Yeah.
the coup
Shut
starts
it
like
down.
as soon as it happens. But it was certainly something that was, part of that movement. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting model. Um,
Definitely.
so cool. Tell me more about you. Like, how did you become this social media wizard? With feet in academics and consulting, and take me back. How did this? How did? Who are you?
Well, so
Well, let me tell you. Do you have a seat?
well,
Yeah.
how long do you have? No,
No, we
so
got
I
all day.
started. So actually, my I always, I always say I'm a student, no matter what. Every day I'm learning something new. But I started my undergrad as a psychology major, and then
Okay.
I was a forensic psych. I was getting a degree in forensic psych, forensic psychology, and it was really interesting, a little heavy. And at the same time, I was getting a master's and an MBA actually, because I knew I always wanted to be in administration as well. And so I took an international marketing course in the summer, and while I was getting my master's in forensic psych, and realized that it was happy. It was basically
Yeah.
similar to psychology, but a lot happier. I was working with psychopathy and domestic violence, and it was challenging, but it
So
gave me
forensic psychology, just to interrupt you.
yeah,
So you were like CSI, you were like
I
doing,
wanted to be.
you wanted to be like
Yeah.
crime scene investigations and
Mhm.
figuring like be an FBI profiler and all. Is that what that master was setting you up for?
I was more focused on helping people, like kids with like kids with conduct disorder. That was really my
Got
focus.
it. Okay.
But there were times that it was super challenging, and that's kind of
And dark,
my
right? Because everyone's got a massive issue that's probably ruining their life and the life of people around them.
exactly. It was
Not
sad. It
exactly
was
like a happiness campaign.
yeah. Let's
You.
just be a little low. Yeah. And I realized it was more than that. So, I respect more than anything people that can do that, because I couldn't. It was really challenging, and
So you
yeah.
so you did this international thing, and you're like, this is cool. So is it you just sort of switch
Yeah.
things up, or did you finish it out? And
Um, I'm
when did you?
I'm very close to finishing. I think I never did. I got another master, so I said I don't really need that anymore.
Shoot,
But
you're an MBA. Yeah.
I had like probably a month left, I think, of
Maybe when you're 80, you can go back and
I don't know.
you're more salty from life. You're like, happiness is for the birds.
Yeah.
Go back and get your
I'm gonna
yeah. You'd be the old lady that goes to crime scenes and is like, yeah, I know.
You should do this.
Yeah.
So I realized that marketing's happy, and then
Yeah.
my instructor at the time talked me into getting my PhD, and I said, sure, why not? I was trying something new anyways, and I started, and it was great. It was funny though, because during my PhD, like I loved social media, and I'm just a very social person,
Sure.
and I would kept thinking, I had such a different background than everyone else. I had the psych background, and I kept hearing this thing, word of mouth marketing. And I was like, what's word of mouth? And I realized Facebook and social media, that is the premise, right? Of what word of mouth marketing is. What social media is, it's all word of mouth marketing. So
Sure.
I saw that connection, and I kept saying I wanted to focus on social media and all my projects, and people laughed at me, rolled their eyes, said, you think you can use social media for marketing? You think it's going to actually be
How did you do that? I mean, I can only imagine a school being set in its ways. And you're like, I'm going to do this cool thing. It's the future.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? Don't you know we're education? We lag behind all these things.
Yeah.
8 decades. I can't believe you possibly want to get a degree in this.
Right. It's
So you had
true.
to fight that battle then.
Oh, I fought it. And it was good. But you know what? Sometimes you just don't listen to people, and you keep going and put your head down, and it was good. And then, because I kept hearing, and I agreed that I didn't have any work experience. And so during my program, what I would do is I would go get internships and try to work for people that needed social media help. I mean, why not? Right. And so I got some experience, and then I got finished my doctorate. And first job was managing a master's of digital marketing and analytics that had a curriculum, but no content in the curriculum.
Oh, yeah, of course. So, no content.
Yeah. So I built that out, and then I loved SNHU, and I knew I wanted to come back. The fast-paced environment and that ability to change and be nimble, and the culture is just, I'm a huge brand advocate. I'm an employee, it is.
Yeah, it's the best kind.
Really, it's great. And you'll notice that too. I mean, I was thinking about it this morning. If you go on Twitter, and the number of faculty and staff and students that are tweeting about SNHU, it's all positive, and that's really what you want in your employees. So they do a great job. I wish I could say that I helped. I didn't. We just have an awesome marketing team. So yeah. Wow. And that's where and then along the way, I started my consulting. I always say my teaching is first. My students come before everything. So they're my they're my currency.
Very cool. Very cool. And now it's almost summertime. So I hear are you going to Google? You're going to go away?
Oh yeah, I am. I was like, wait, no. Yeah. So this spring, I applied for a grant to learn more about mindfulness. I'm a Reiki master.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
yeah, it's called the Karoo Institute. And I'm going to get certified in mindfulness to bring into pedagogy, which is teaching. And then like a week later, I'm going to Google and I'm going to their mindfulness training, not their teacher training, but just their training to learn more about mindfulness. So
At Google?
No, I think it's in Portland, so I don't think
Gotcha.
it's
So a little bit north. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
it's still it's called Search Inside Yourself. It's an institute they have in
Oh,
their
wow. I love the pun.
I know, right?
As soon as Google starts reading our minds, we're all in trouble.
They probably are already.
Well, this is awesome. Where can people find you and connect with you? What are all the social? Just throw them out there. The links where people can, reach out and connect.
So the best way to contact me is through Twitter. I'm at really Leila. That's REALLYLEILA.
Cool.
That's probably the best way to contact me is through Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. Same. It's like LinkedIn/IN/really Leila.
Sure.
I don't have Facebook. Well, I have a personal Facebook account, but not really
all these strangers who listen to the podcast start friending you on Facebook. Like, didn't you hear the example earlier? Don't do that. Say hi first. Well, it's
say hi.
Like sending an invite on LinkedIn and not saying hi. Come on, people. I'm guilty of that, but
I do that too.
You got to say hi and where you met. People, oh, okay, you're not just some stranger. Got it.
Yep, it's true.
Cool.
And then what else? I have a website that I'm going to revamp because long story, but reallyleila.social, and then my blog, which hasn't been updated. I'm do as I say, not as I do on reallyleila.com.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put all that stuff on the show notes too.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll be there. But yeah, thanks so much for coming and hanging out and chatting social here.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been fun, and yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, totally. And everyone else, if you learned something here, definitely share this episode with someone you know. And this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We'll see you all next time.